Hey y'all, welcome to week 3. I can't believe it's already week 3. That means we're about halfway through. Pretty crazy. I want to take a moment to highlight our responsibilities for today and tomorrow, if you're not already aware, and I just want to comment on some of these things just to add some clarification. So in a separate video, I'll walk you through the Major Essay Project 1 rubric. This is what I'm going to use to assess your polished drafts. I've laid out all the expectations for the different levels of whether it's an exceptional piece of writing, if it's a ready piece of writing, or if the piece of writing is not ready yet. So I've laid it all out, and I'll have a separate video that will address those. Right here, though, I want to highlight the next two items here, where you'll submit the polished draft of Major Essay Project 1 and where you'll submit your cover letter for Major Essay Project 1. So let's click on the polished draft tab first. Okay, so just as you did for draft 1 and draft 2, you're going to submit the polished draft through the Turnitin app using this portal in the module. Okay, so you'll click on that, and then yours, it shouldn't have this. I'm using the student view, so it's kind of a little different, but you should be able to submit your polished draft just as you did the first draft and the second draft. Now, before you do that, please go back and reread the project prompt. It's really important that you read through the prompt, you make sure that you've addressed all of the challenges and concerns laid out in this project, and then you're not overlooking anything. So go through and read through that prompt again, watch my explanation video again, just to make sure that you're addressing everything as thoroughly as you can, right? Now you'll also want to carefully review the rubric, and as I mentioned earlier, I'll have a separate video where I walk you through the rubric, but you're going to want to take a careful look at that, because as I mentioned, that has all the expectations laid out for this and the various levels of success. And then also, please, if you haven't gone back and looked at the feedback I provided on draft 1 and draft 2, you're going to want to do that, because one of the whole reasons you submitted multiple drafts is so that I could read and provide some suggestions for you as you go along. And so if you're not aware of that, then that could be a little detrimental, right? So you're going to want to go back and look at those drafts. You open up your documents again and look through and take my feedback into consideration. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at the cover letter now. So I'm going to click on this. So what a cover letter is, it's designed to give your reader a little bit of a heads up on what your essay is focused on, what you are working on, and what you think you might need a little bit more help with, right? Now, I am the primary audience member at this point. Obviously, you have, imaginary audience members, but I'm the primary reader and assessor of this essay. So in this case, you're going to write the letter to me. So you'll say, "Dear Professor Leis," and then you'll respond to these items in letter form. So using paragraphs to separate your ideas. Don't just treat them as just items on a list and you're just responding to the questions. Write it as a letter, compose it as a letter. So use these questions to kind of guide you, but please use paragraphs to separate your ideas. Let me actually read through this. In a letter addressed to Professor Leis, explain the following items. Be sure to compose this as a letter using paragraphs to separate your ideas. This is the cover letter for your polished draft of Major Essay Project 1, so compose this letter after you've completed your polished draft. So this is important because, as I mentioned, this is designed to give me a heads up on what you are working on in the essay. So you're going to want to finish the essay before you can know what you want me to know about it, right? So the cover letter should come after you submit your polished draft. So in these, let me just walk us through the items I want you to include in your cover letter. So you're going to describe your essay's main focus. What are you trying to accomplish? So the main focus of this essay, let's go back to the prompt here, was to construct an essay of at least 4 full pages that informs your audience about a value that is important to you, establishes your personal definition of the value, and demonstrates an intricate understanding of how your personal history or experiences have contributed to its creation and evolution. So how you went about addressing that prompt is what you were trying to get across in your essay, right? That's the main focus. But let me know that so that I'm not left guessing in case it's a little unclear, right? That would be something I would comment on in my feedback. The next item, what point do you feel you've made most successfully in your essay? In other words, what point do you think you got across really well? What are you most proud of? Which point do you think is most successful, that you worked the hardest on, or maybe you feel you just did a really good job on? Let me know. Point that out to me. After that, of course, I'm willing to bet we all have at least one area in our paper where we're a little unsure of, right? Not as confident with, right? So what point do you think needs more attention? So which point do you think needs a little bit more expansion or development, or maybe you're just a little unclear if it's actually an effective point? Point that out to me so that I can pay attention to it when I read through. After that, what is the primary concern for your essay that you would like me to address for you in my feedback? So if you're concerned about the way you've organized your essay, maybe that's your primary concern and you would point that out to me. Maybe your primary concern is your conclusion. Maybe you're not sure if you addressed that so what question effectively. Maybe your primary concern is the way you've incorporated certain examples, or maybe if you did choose to incorporate textual evidence from a different source, if you've integrated your quotations effectively, or maybe you're concerned about your works cited page or your MLA format, or any number of different things. But whatever your primary concern is, point that out to me so I can try to address that in my feedback. And then finally, what questions do you have about where or how to start your revisions of this draft? So some of us might need to revise, and so I want all of us to kind of put ourselves in our future shoes, so to speak. After I read through and say you were to revise this, what questions might you have about how to get that revision going? And then, of course, just as with any letter, you're going to provide a closing signature. So you could say, sincerely, your favorite student, so-and-so, or however you choose to provide your closing signature. But you're going to want to have a closing signature. Okay, so again, this should be composed as a letter, and then when you're finished with that, you'll just submit the assignment, copy and paste it into the text entry box, just as you've been doing for the reading response questions and so on. Okay, so as I mentioned, I'm going to have a separate video for the rubric, so stay tuned for that. And if you have any questions, just let me know. Feel free to message me on Canvas.